Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is Cee, Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 123 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast Adjunct series. We're in the building with a special episode tonight. As always, we've been on a run with guests and super excited to learn a lot more about this brewery and drink some fire Crispies tonight. But of course, as always, this episode is sponsored by our good friends at Manscaped. Now, this ad read, this is a funny one. So spring has sprung, well, almost, and our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning. They've already helped you tidy up all the nooks and crannies of your body's basement, but this year, Manscaped can help you get the perfect presentation of that beautiful face with that new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Yes. Make sure you look your best this spring by using code BAOS to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. What a deal. So, I would imagine most people watching or listening either have a beard or know someone with a beard, so it's kind of relevant. So it is time to tame your mane with the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. The sun is peeking back out, which means you'll have to show your face in daylight again. So to use the kit, make sure that your scruff looks award-winning, whether you got a glorious beard flow or some smooth, sleek cheeks. You know the vibes. The kit starts off with the Beard Hedger, a waterproof cordless trimmer with a rotary wheel, this little guy here, where it just moves the top thing. What's it called? The guard. With a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting length, which is pretty handy. All with one guard, so no more messy drawers full of add-ons, because that is annoying. It also comes with titanium-coated T-blades, which you can't quite see through the thing, that are tough on hair but smooth on your face, leading to a single-stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction one stroke at a time. The Beard Hedger is a high-tech piece of art in travel-sized package with this cool little kit, which I really enjoy, and it's like hard, so it can't get broke up in your luggage. With long-lasting battery, universal charging, and a strong motor. Next, the kit has the liquid goods to make you feel good, starting with the beard shampoo and conditioner, which is pretty dope. Excited to try this. I just use soap right now, but I'm about to bust this open once this campaign finishes, because you don't want to see used products. We've got the conditioner and the shampoo, and you can't treat your beard like you treat your pubes, guys. All right, seriously. That's why the kit has a special shampoo and conditioner specially designed to moisturize, reduce ingrown hairs, and replenish your beard's natural oils and promote beard health. The Pro Kit also has Manscaped's Beard Oil. The nutrient-infused oil relieves dryness both on the beard and the skin beneath, while adding a little shimmer. This little stuff. It's a small guy. You don't need much. And shine to liven up the look. Now, you can cap that off with the Beard Balm. I very much like Beard Balm too, actually. I'm not sure which I prefer, but Beard Balm, a little smaller thing there, that promotes a pomade that shapes, styles, and moisturizes, bringing the amazing scent of fresh eucalyptus, rosemary, and lavender essential oils. Not to mention the Beard Hedger Pro Kit also comes with 3 free gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. This is the little brush, kind of looks like a shoe cleaner thing. I like it because it kind of scratches my face, my skin underneath, whilst freshening that bad boy up. I love it. So, guys, save 20% off and get free shipping with the code BAOS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code BAOS at manscaped.com. Focus on the face and use the Beard Hedger Pro Kit for the cleanest look in a game. So, also, do you know what? I just want to quickly shout out my friend Christina in Calgary. So she puts this calendar out. She runs Exhale Brewery. So she puts this calendar out, like a charity calendar every year called Bowls, Boobs, and Beer. So it's basically exactly that, like tasteful nudes. Like you can't see the bits really. Pretty fun. I don't know if I want to show it in case there's something that's inappropriate and they take the damn video down, but this is pretty cool. You can grab this bad boy. Does it have the fucking website on there? I just wanted to shout it out because she sends it to me every year and I love it. It's really clever and people seem to really enjoy it. So shouts to Christina. Make sure you go support that because I think it all goes to charity. So this evening we are heading out to Cambridge, Ontario, with a brewery that I've heard a lot about. I've tried a couple of drops from them, but I'm very excited to get the full story, like I was saying. So guys, please welcome Matt and Mike of Farm League Brewery, and of course Nathan from NathanDoesBeer helping you out. There you go. Welcome everybody. How's everyone doing?
How's it going?
Mate.
What up? How you guys doing?
Chilling, glorious, happy to be here. Welcome, fellas. And Nathaniel, it's always a pleasure to see that beautiful face of yours, mate.
Always good to be here. Welcome, fellas.
Yes. So I'm super excited to get into this.
Thanks for having us.
Genuine pleasure. I feel like I've heard more and more about you guys as time's gone on. I've seen you guys, doing a bunch of collabs that I keep seeing pop up. I feel like you guys are really doing some stuff, and I'm very excited to get into the beers. And we were talking about it earlier. You guys have sort of chosen a pretty like eclectic, interesting lineup for us tonight. Definitely crispy boy forward, which is something that Nate and I appreciate very, very much. So let's get into that first beer, shall we? And then we can get into yapping.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
Sounds good to me.
Tell us about this one, fellas. Ooh,
Mike,
Matt, you want to start, or do you want me to take the reins?
Give the down low there, Mike.
Alrighty, so yeah, totally. So Holler Lager. This is our basically our ode to the beer flavored beer. It's super easy drinking corn based lager. So finishes pretty dry. A nice little subtle sweetness there. Not too bitter. Kind of treads that happy middle ground between a flavorful lager, but something you can just crush six of. And with this beer, we really like to go for that macro style and try to capture a bit of that market. Especially Cambridge, it's a little more blue collar. And, kind of a working class town, and it's kind of a working class beer.
I like that. Working class beer. It's a good episode name.
Yeah, we want to make a beer that people can just smash, and at the brewery, we want something that anyone can enjoy from anywhere. So you come in, you can get if you're with your dad, if you're with your cousin, if you're with your mom, whatever it may be. There's everything on the board, but a Holler Lager is a favorite. Super nice, easy drinking, clean, crushable. And with the beers we gave tonight, we just wanted to give you guys the beer we're drinking these days and the beers that we really love. So this is probably top of the list when it comes to what we drink at the brewery most often. 4.8 lets you make it through the brew day okay without getting too sleepy. So it's a good one for that. And man, it's a favorite at the brewery, and we're really stoked to have you guys try it.
Mate, I am amped. Fellas, welcome again. Cheers. Pleasure.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. Prost.
Oh, wow. That's great. Beautiful can art too, man. So clean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love the description there, Mike. That's money. Everything you said, that's exactly what I'm getting here. It's like a nice, like you said, corn-based macro-style lager without all the things that we don't like about them things.
Absolutely, yeah. We went for the right way to brew a macro-style beer and hope to hit that middle ground between flavorful and easy drinkingness, which we're stoked about. We make more of this beer than anything else at the brewery, so it's nice that we're super proud of it, because at every brew day we can be happy it's coming out of the tank. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. I'm not surprised. Oh, this is going to be dangerous. I have a problem on the pods. Like, I forgot to say to you guys earlier, you don't have to finish all the beers, because, about 2 hours, 4 beers, it's a lot. So sometimes I drink them and I finish like half, and I'll finish them all afterwards. The problem with this for me, it's going to be a night. This is glorious. I'm not going to be able to stop drinking this bad boy. This is really fantastic, man. I feel like sometimes when people attempt this type of beer, and I think this is a very respectable style to go for exactly the reasons that you said. I've had some good ones. I've had some ones that may have slightly missed the mark, but I feel like this is like money. It's that you cannot hide behind anything in this beer. So you guys have really like delivered. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this one, Nate, as well.
Yeah, what I'm finding with this one, like you were saying with the corn edition there, it's it does have a bit of sweetness to it that you might not find in a lot of craft lagers, but I find that the more aggressive carbonation cuts through that really quickly, so it's not so there's not like lingering sweetness on on the palate, and it's finishing nice and crisp, and like you're saying at 4.8, this is a real easy crusher, and it's it's going down super easy. I like this.
Right on.
I like that you said that, Nate, that the sweetness is cut by the carbonation, but I think that's exactly what it is, because I noticed the sweetness. And it can go either way, but I think this is that's the reason why. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on that, as far as, is that accurate? Is that sort of what would balance that sort of sweetness out, which is obviously expected of the style?
I'll give a quick
Yeah,
2 cents,
yeah,
and then Mike can jump in on the specifics a little bit. But for us, it was super important when we came out with a lager. It was one of our first beers we ever made, but it was super important not to fall into the like how I find most craft lagers, a little malty, a little bitter, which is great in a lot of ways, and I love those beers all the time. But when you're trying to reach the audience of anyone walking through the door, we wanted to knock those two sides of the equation down a little bit and bring that sweetness that kind of mirrors something that's a little bit more familiar for the everyday beer drinker, with the corn. And then, I mean, that's a good point about the carbonation. It definitely does give it a nice balance to it. But yeah, the importance of this beer was getting something, relatively clear and pale, easy drinking, and not fall into the, beers that people pick up at, their local retailer or whatever it may be, and see lager on the front of it and bring it home and then get disappointed when they're not met with something that they're a little bit more familiar with from the bigger world of beer. So yeah, stoked you guys like it. Mike, any specifics you want to jump on the beer?
yeah. I mean, this beer really was made with sort of crushability in mind. And yeah, I find that carbonation does kind of help with the way that it goes down. It doesn't really coat your palate, stick to your tongue, which is just pretty smooth ride all the way down. And I mean, yeah, the addition of the corn, nice, gives it a really nice like pale color, clarity.
Yes.
It really is a labor of love. With a beer like this, I mean, it's by far the longest resident of any of our fermenters. It's the only beer that we filter. So like just taking the extra time as well to really try and shine it up and make it as bright as we can, and really just as approachable. It's the kind of beer that you just go into a bar and say, hey, I want a beer, and this is kind of what we envisioned with with Holler.
That's great, man.
It's nice you bring up the label too, which is dope because it's a recent redesign on the label. Beforehand, it just said Farm League Brewing in the same style on the front, and then Holler Lager at the bottom. And this is our first beer to go to the LCBO, so that was on shelves, and we had everyone coming into the shop asking for the Farm League Brewing, thinking that the name of the beer was the thing on the front, and then not really paying attention to the Holler Lager on the bottom. So we just kind of flipped that to make it a little bit more standout from the brewery itself. So now it reads a little bit better on the shelf. So I'm glad you liked the label because that was a recent and intentional change. So I'm happy that's working out.
That's dope. I feel like I really like I like the feel of the actual label itself and the metallic kind of with the silver and the red. It kind of like tells the story of what the beer is. Like you look at this and I would probably infer from this that this is what's in the can. Like this style of beer is what's in, and I feel like it also, like craft beer can typically be, a little more colorful, I guess, which doesn't speak to the demo that you guys are going after with this beer. Being that it sounds like you're really going after the person that might consider a switch from their regular macro that they probably just drink without even thinking about. So you look at something like this, it's not too scary for them. It's like looks classy and clean and somewhat it's like familiar without being the same as the other stuff. So there's like it's great, like the whole cohesive what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it, but the whole effort I think it works really well, guys. This is awesome. It definitely feels like an LCBO product. That's sick. Oh, and the gold cap, classy touch.
Yeah, the gold cap is nice touch. I love that. Go ahead.
Go on.
I was just gonna say with the style of it, like you mentioned, it's kind of like when you look at a shelf at LCBO retailers or even at your own craft brewery, you're looking through the fridges and the shelves, and there's a lot of loudness to it, and that's the style that a lot of people choose. But with this beer, it kind of reverses that and is that like kind of simple beacon of hope of just like a beer you can grab and take home and have no worries about. So that was kind of the thought process behind the red and white clear, clean kind of look to it. So like it stands out kind of in the reverse way rather than being loud on the shelf. It's really simple. And yeah, kind of like you said, tells a story of what's in the can. And, you know, for my dad, who was Ontario's largest Coors Light drinker, the man has fully switched over to Holler Lager. So if that's not a testament, then I don't know what is. So
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's a win there.
That's exactly
For
what.
sure.
It's good to know that it already works. So before you've even sort of, had enough data, I imagine, from LCBOs yet, you already got the test case. Love it. That's fantastic, boys. Very, very cool. So I'd love to get the story from both you guys as far as like how you both discovered craft beer and sort of where that came from and how that led to the brewery opening up. Whoever wants to start.
Yeah. Mikey, if you want to start on your little road to craft beer, and then we can meet in the middle when our paths crossed. If you'd like, you can tell your little bit first, and then I'll jump into my history. And then there's a clear intersection with us before the creation of the brewery, so we can probably merge at that point.
All right, yeah, that sounds good to me.
1 second,
so, I mean,
man.
I
1 sec, Mike.
kind of started.
Your audio has gone kind of wild. It sounds like a robot all of a sudden.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, do you want to maybe just see if taking the headphones out works?
Yeah, totally.
Just to try that.
How's that? Can you guys hear me? Is that okay?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
All right. Crystal clear.
Crystal clear. I don't know what happened.
I'm living out in the country here, so we have one internet provider. There's no options, and they're not exactly the most reliable, but doing what we can.
No sweat, man. I appreciate it.
So my love affair with craft beer probably started, I guess, pretty close to 10 years ago. Like working in second year college over the summer. Go over to my buddy's place, and he's like, "Hey, you want a beer?" And I was like, expecting your most Canadian or whatever. And it was actually a Muskoka Detour back in the day. And like that, had one sip, and it was just kind of like that light went off of, oh, like this is pretty good. Actually the kind of the first beer I enjoyed drinking. Meanwhile, I was taking microbiology at school. So that was kind of, where I got almost like a backdoor entry into the whole craft beer world of, finding an interest and a passion in food science, fermented foods, specifically, like kombucha, bread, beer, all that kind of stuff. Got a homebrew kit for Christmas, and then that was kind of it. I think I did, like with an American brown ale, like a 5-gallon homebrew kit on the stove, and instantly fell in love with it as a hobby. Just kind of carried that on for, throughout my education. Graduated university, thought about Niagara College, didn't really want to, incur another $35,000 of debt.
Yeah.
So I found a job, fortunately, working on the canning line at Wellington.
Nice.
So I was there, and that was just kind of my in. It was, at first I was thinking maybe like a sales position or something like that, but eventually it was just a boots on the ground, and that was the beginning of the the journey as a professional, I suppose. So if that was back in 2016, so almost 7 years now. And yeah, I've been at a handful of places where I've just kind of, learned the craft from those around me, and, people who, were fortunate enough to, I was fortunate enough rather for them to give me a shot. And yeah, just kind of cut my teeth, actually doing it every day, sort of fully immerse myself. So a combination of self-taught and I guess almost an apprenticeship in some ways.
That's awesome. Okay, then how did you guys connect?
Yeah, so
You wanna take over again?
Mike and I, yeah. So Mike and I, we both went to the University of Guelph, and funny enough, I think we were 1 year apart, and in a way crossed paths, but didn't for many years. Both our girlfriends were friends through mutual friends, and we've just missed each other on different party occasions and this and that. And I always remember, Michelle saying that, oh my God, you love Lacey's boyfriend. He's super into craft beer, like he's a brewer. It'd be really cool if you guys were to meet. And that kind of went on for some time until kind of this business plan grew with our third business partner, Colin McKinnon, who, is also from the area, grew up in Rockwood and lived in Guelph, and connected with Mike through mutual friends. And we all kind of just like met together over this mutual, love of craft beer and passion to try and potentially start something of our own. And, we all three connected one faithful night at a bar and started chatting about, what the future could hold. And crazy enough, it happened a lot quicker than we ever expected, for sure, just given the circumstances of the past couple of years. But I'll rewind and give a little background of mine, and then we can move on to the brewery itself. But I went to Guelph as well. I did biological sciences, similar to Mike. And in maybe mid to late university, started, grabbing beers off the shelf at the LCBO in the boredom of, James Ready, Coors Light keg parties that were, always going on, looking for a little bit more of a spice to life, we might say. So funny enough, I think it was a detour as well. That was my first, nice. crafty or craft oriented beer. And then I remember having tried it, whatever beer it was. I grew up in Burlington, so maybe it was Nickelbrook or something like that, years before, and didn't like it. And then there was just that one moment, or that night, I bought a couple craft beers and hit it, and it was just different. I don't know if it was a palate change or what, but it was just so much better. And then I'm sure, as you guys know better than most, that there's really no turning back after that. And went through all the phases of craft beer into super, super hoppy stuff, like super old school bitter West Coast IPAs, into, lighter stuff, into hazy stuff, into sours, fruity, and all back around. So kind of did the whole tour. But when I finished school, looking for a job for a while, worked at the beer store just down from my parents' house that I was staying at in the never-ending job search at the time, and ended up kind of digging it. Like, not the day-to-day recycling of the bottles and this and that, but seeing what came in and the different beers and getting to try stuff. And, we used to make our buddies crazy mix packs and whatnot. So kind of grew a love for that, and thought I wanted to be potentially in the industry. However, having done a bio degree, I actually was more focused in human health and healthcare oriented things, and followed that path for a number of years, before, having a job in that field, having moved around, working in hospitals and things like that. And then, kind of pulling the rug from underneath myself and saying, screw it. And, having wanted to jump into the beverage alcohol or beer industry for some time, left that job and moved back to Ontario and started with a startup in Toronto, doing sales and distribution for what was known as Iconic Brewing at the time, which was more an early RTD company and a beer agency. So we imported beers and things like that. Worked there for a number of years and kind of cut my teeth with, I'll preface, I do most of like the sales, brand development and things like that at the brewery. So my history is a little bit more oriented that way. But, the ever-growing want to be fully immersed on the beer side led me to leaving that job and working over at Collective Arts for a number of years with some great folks, and really learning, the ins and outs of the Ontario craft beer industry through them. And, the world was grinding to a halt. All our jobs were getting super weird. And, the craziness ensued of Mike, Cullen, and I, banding together and coming up with this idea to potentially start a brewery. So that's kind of where the whole brewery story starts, after, having a couple beers with those lads, an old friend, Colin, of mine from university, that we both loved craft beer, and a familiar friend, Mike, that I was unlucky to have not met until that point. And we got off to a rocking start, which was awesome. So what did we do, Mike? We had many beers, many chats, and started homebrewing some fun batches at your house,
Yep. Yeah. Well, incidentally, I think the very first time that we actually all met and got together and really said we're doing this, we were at the Real Deal, and I'm pretty sure we were drinking macros. So it really does come full circle. Holler is the pinnacle, right? But yeah, it was just incredible fortune. Right people, right place, right time. The stars really aligned for us. With getting the building that we got, and all the equipment that we did, being able to pull everything together. Especially during the middle of 2020. Super uncertain time. Not maybe not the great time to be jumping in to start a business, but it's pedal to the metal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No one ever told us smart. We're fun loving and have a lot of good ideas. But starting a business that time smart, maybe not. But hey, we're still here, so it's been all right.
That says a lot. If you could open during COVID, I mean, there's a bunch of breweries that you guys included in that sort of got their start in 2020, 2021 during COVID, and still going strong. So it's maybe it wasn't as silly of an idea as it kind of seemed on paper there.
Yeah, I think there was a number of finding opportunity in tragedy to some degree at that point in time, being as there were a lot of people floating in the industry, and luckily for us, some real estate and equipment that was in flux right at that time, that we were able to somehow line up the two pinholes and go through the middle right at that time. But truly, had it not been that time in our history where things were shutting down and people maybe closing or abandoning their businesses or moving on to something else, we probably wouldn't have had the opportunities to get the things we got that have kind of become, who we are and the staple that we do. So, thankful in a weird way that you would never be really thankful about, but without that like turbulent time, it would look like a very, very different place. That's for sure.
I respect that. It's even my business wouldn't have probably taken off the way it did too if it wasn't for that time, which is sort of a weird thing to be, like you said, weird thing to be thankful for or grateful for, really. But it is what it is. It's just one of those like sort of things where, like you said, stars aligned, everything sort of worked out. So love that. So then when you guys were planning it out, you doing the homebrew batches, what styles were you brewing, and what did you have in mind for the types of the styles that you were going to make? Usually breweries tend to have some sort of an identity. Sometimes that identity is you do anything. Sometimes it's whatever. It's just mostly crispies and blah, blah, blah. Like, did you guys have like a vision for what the brewery was going to be? And then did you sort of like just test all that stuff in the early stages?
For sure. Mike, if you want to give some insight on the early batches, I can give the early vision pitch, which is funny to look back on for sure.
Yeah, I bet it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the paramount things for us was drinkability across the board, right?
Okay.
You'll find that almost all of our beers are low, what I would call low alcohol, right? They're under 6%. There's a couple there, like some of the IPAs that are a little bit stronger, but we tend to brew a little bit on the lighter side. Sort of favoring, being able to have a couple of beers over, one big bottle of barley wine or, one big triple IPA that, like 11%, and you kind of stand up after the first one, like, I don't know, So I mean, yeah, we kind of started off, hit the ground running actually with our Kölsch. That was our very first sort of pilot, homebrew batch. I mean, I had been homebrewing for years, but it was a little different to kind of have the guys come over for the first time and sit down and play on our kitchen stove with bag of grain and homemade mash tun and all that kind of stuff. There's lots of attempts and sort of tweaks along the way. But I mean, I think we really hit a home run with the first recipe, the first time we brewed it. So we were pretty happy with that. And I think after that, we, did like a session IPA, which sort of eventually became, I guess, Birdie Juice, which is sort of one of our other projects that we're working on. A handful of like Belgian styles that, I'm personally a big fan of Belgian beer. So we did like a dry hop saison recipe, which, is sort of struggled to find its way in the market. It didn't quite land the way that we had hoped with with the general public. But I mean, we still like to tread in the waters of, hazy IPAs and all that kind of stuff. We'll do a double IPA every once in a while, but sort of overarchingly, it's, simple, well-made, easy to drink beers. And, we kind of like to tread the path of tradition with some of our brews, and follow try and do as close to a style as we can. We try to brew a little bit of everything. I believe that there's a beer for everyone, right? So people who say they don't like beers, they probably just haven't tried the right style, right? So try to brew as much as we can and please as many palates as we can. Sorry, I'm rambling.
Not at all.
Oh, all good, Mickey. Yeah, we when we first started, the Kölsch was like, I think the Kölsch style, or like Lauderdale style, is the epicenter of like the entry beer into the craft beer world, being as you get those nice, easy drinking qualities of that lagering process, but some more robust, flavors from it being, an ale in general. So that was like kind of a sneak peek or insight to our thought process, and a lot of the things we wanted to make was kind of tone the line on both those sides of drinkability, but also like great craft beer. But it can be an introduction, or it can be something that you just love to drink simply. And we really started with the stuff that we like to drink. At the time, I think we were all getting through the heavy hazy double IPA craze or popular style, whatever you want to call it, and had kind of been exhausted by that, wanted to take it a bit of a different direction. And like Mike said, we never shut the door on any styles, because, truly, I love all styles of beer. You can have a great beer from any style. There's well-made beers to be had at every single point. But we just cruised with what we liked, and we thought there was more people like us out there that wanted to see some more simple, still with a spin on it, easy drinking, well-made craft beer, and then dip our toes in the funky stuff every once in a while, which I think has been a good trajectory for us from the beginning. But other than it was Kölsch, Big Ticket Kölsch. We made our Fun Police Hazy IPA after that, or maybe it was the session into the full strength Hazy IPA, into our lager, and then the Dry Hop Saison RIP was called Leaf, which was the fourth member of our core lineup when we first started the brewery, and we loved that beer, but it did just not quite. When we first launched it, there was a lot of uptake of it, and people seemed to really like it, but I mean, at that time, with our brew house and our setup, which is, was oversized for when we started, you make a batch of beer and you got to be able to move through that in an appropriate amount of time. And it was just the slowest mover. So we hope to bring that one back in a seasonal style release in the future from the OG lineup. And that got replaced with the What Feeling Good Feels Like Wheat that we're going to be trying tonight, which has found a nice home as a classic style beer that you don't see as much in the craft beer world, but seems to be gaining some popularity, at least in our region, and filling a gap that was there for sure. So that was the thought process with the beers, and we've been having fun with it. The odd funky thing, but sticking a little bit to tradition and focusing on drinkability, and makes for a diverse time at the brewery without going overboard.
I like that. That's a cool approach to everything. What did you open with then? What was that lineup looking like?
When we first opened?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the lager, so Holler Lager, Big Ticket Kölsch, Fun Police, Hazy IPA, and then Leaf it was called, which we called an American Farmhouse Ale or a Dry Hop Saison. So those were the first four beers that we had, and it took a little bit of time to gain some steam into some more one-off territory and things like that.
Okay, nice. Well, with that, probably about time for the next one. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, good to go.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Alrighty. So we're staying on the OG train right now. That's kind of why I was asking.
Exactly.
So I guess this is what you were referring to. This is the big ticket Kölsch, and this is the the label, I imagine, Matt, that you were referring to earlier, where it has farm leagues that are big, and the brand underneath it. But you did switch that up for the LCBO. And looking at this, I can see why you did that.
Yeah.
Particularly
So
at the brewery is one thing, but
yeah, we have labels in the queue for the other core beers to follow along the Holler Lager pathway. Where when we first started, all the beers were the farm league on the front there in different colors and just denoted with the style on the bottom. But now we're diversifying them a little bit, keeping the simplicity of style. But then Big Ticket Kölsch, you'll see in the near future, is a super cool metallic blue label with silver metallic writing, and Big Ticket is a little bit more fancy on there and appropriate. And then the Fun Police IPA is following that path as well. So a little juggle in the design, but I think for the better. And I'm stoked for people to see that Big Ticket label because I think it's awesome.
yeah.
Nice.
I can definitely see that being cool. I know we're gonna let me just take the photo real quick, and then you know what, we can cheers, and I'll take the photo. We always fuck
let's do
around
that.
too much, and we don't cheers, guys. Get that in you.
Cheers.
Roast.
Hell yeah! Oh wow, it's really fascinating. I was actually looking forward to having these two back to back because I always feel like it's really interesting to try like the similar but quite different styles back to back, and you sort of like, oh yeah, Kölsch, macro lagers all the same. Like, nah, bro, like this is very different. Do you guys want to talk us through the tasting notes of this?
Yeah, fired up, Mikey.
Sure. So, I mean, with Big Ticket Kölsch, we were going for something a little bit more flavorful, sort of the next step forward from stepping into craft beer at Holler Lager. So this one we used some Vienna malt in it to get kind of a nice, like, bready sort of malt backbone, and then a pretty heavy dose of some German tradition hops, just to really bring out that like beautiful floral character, that kind of like sharp, snappy bitterness that I kind of envisioned with Kölsch, and it really lends to a very beautiful drinkability to the beer. It is, as I mentioned, a bit of a step forward, sort of deeper water with craft beer than Holler, but still approachable enough that it's not going to scare anyone away.
Very much so.
Like
Very approachable for sure, and really interesting. Like as we were saying, to have this back to back, because it certainly is refreshing and approachable. But but you do get quite a bit more. Flavor notes coming off of it that than the lager, like you were saying, you get that floral aspect and some more pronounced bitterness and some of the hop flavor. I don't know if my palate is just being a bit weird tonight, but I'm almost getting a bit of berry off of it as well. I'm getting that somewhere. It's interesting how much more robust a Kölsch can even be, which you don't. You might not typically think of a Kölsch like that, I find, but having it back to back is really like bringing a lot forward.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think it's like you're gingerly walking up a staircase going from the last beer to this beer, where it's just like nicely bringing you up to the next level. But this one, again, I don't often have these beers directly back to back, but that really bright punch is like a ray of sunshine when you have that first sip of this beer. And you get those different pops of the floralness or even a little berry. It's funny when you taste beer and you don't think of anything until someone else says it, and then it kind of like kickstarts those flavors for yourself. We're super stoked on this beer, and it's even funny. I was at the Bent Elbow the other day in Kitchener.
Bent Elbow, what a great name.
Yeah, it's one of my faves. They have tons and tons of taps, but they focus primarily on European and German beers, and then with a good mix of Ontario craft. But I had some Kölsches there, some German Kölsches from Cologne, and really liked it, and saw so much of what we do with this beer in that, with maybe a touch more, a little bit more brightness, and a little bit more kind of depth of flavor. which I'm stoked about. It's kind of like a Kölsch on steroids in a way, where it just like, you know, pumps those flavors up a little bit higher than the classic version, which we know goes for drinkability. So ours is definitely drinkable, but definitely a lot of flavor, and you know, brings us up a little bit here, which is fun. But I know, hats off to Mikey on this one. Whether you put stock into it or not, we did a little trip out to Calgary last year for the CBAs, and this actually won gold for German Kolsch in the country, which is a fun little experience.
Congrats, boys! That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
I don't feel like that's any easy feat. I've been to the CBAs before. It's you know, a lot of stiff competition across the country. It's a good time.
It was a hilarious time. We had, it was super fun. I mean, everyone's drinking beer and having a good time. What can you say? You know, it's always for a good weekend.
I never seen so many, like, I don't know what I went in 2017 in Ottawa, and they had it was like at whatever, some convention center there or some hotel thing, and the whole back, you know, those rooms are pretty big with all the tables where they have the event, and the whole back of the room was just like one long table, and they had like just lined up just beers from across the country, like insane shit. I'd never seen people so drunk, like all industry folks. And we'd only been around for like 2 years at the time, so it was pretty early. So it was weird to see everyone that like lit. It was a good time. So I imagine Calgary would have been much of the same.
Calgary's a fun time, man.
I haven't been. I've heard good things.
Mike and I shared a closet Airbnb right by the spot, so made for some difficult sleeps with probably for Mike for snoring time over here. You know,
Honestly, it's not that bad. It's not that bad sleeping on the floor, you know, especially when you're well hydrated throughout the day.
Oh, that's amazing. That's awesome. This is a really fascinating beer. I don't know if there's like Nate, you might be onto something with this berry thing here, which is something I don't recall ever sort of noticing in a Kölsch. What were the hops again, Mike?
So the main hops in it are Magnum for just for generally for your bittering purposes, and then I finish it off with a big dose of Hallertau Tradition. There is a very, very small proportion of Ontario grown Cascade hops in the final kettle edition, but it is like a nominal 10% of the total hop bill.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that is like sort of the secret sauce, but that was one of the ingredients that we used when we did our first pilot batch, and I kind of liked what it was doing to the beer, and just kind of kept it in hands off. Like if it ain't broke, don't break it. So I don't know. I think it's worked out really well. Yeah, I mean, like Matt said, whether you put a bunch of stock in it or not, it was able to bring us back a little bit of hardware out of Calgary. So, and on top of that, because it's brewed entirely with German Weyermann malt, I got my coveted pair of red overalls for, brewing a gold medal winning beer using, their proprietary grain. So it's kind of cool. I get to run around the brewery looking like Mario now.
I only heard about that recently. So we have this, Nate's actually wearing the shirt right now. We have a non-profit called Link Up. And one of our applicants, it's just to diversify the craft beer industry. One of the applicants is at the Niagara Brewing School. And he mentioned his goal in brewing, he works at Blood Brothers now, is to get those overalls. And I didn't know what he was talking about. So I'm just really, I know it's a little bit of a sidebar, but I'm curious. So if you brew a beer that wins a beer award using exclusively their malt, you get the red overalls. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think they have a different stipulation for it. I think it's like 70% of the grain or more has to be Weyermann malt. And I don't think it's all competitions. I think it's like just like national based competitions. So like Canadian Brewing Awards or like Great American Beer Fest in the States, or, you know, like that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah, they're the same overalls that they wear at the Weyermann Malting facility in Bamberg. And it's my understanding that the only way to get them is to either be given them by them as a thank you for, you know, brewing the beer, or to actually work there. So kind of a cool little souvenir thing.
I love
And
it.
yeah, I mean, I remember years ago, like working at Wellington Brewery and seeing those, you know, seeing some of them hanging around in offices. And I'm like, how do I get my hands on one of those, you know? And so,
awesome.
you know,
That's
mission
awesome.
accomplished.
Look at that. Early days as well.
That's
What do you guys,
great.
how long you guys been open? 2
Yeah.
years probably? 3?
I'm sorry, say again.
How long have you guys been open?
Oh, shoot. Okay, we've been open. It's kind of funny because we were open, closed for a little bit there, but
That's true.
we would have started the business just about 2 years ago on the nose. I think it was late February 2 years ago that we incorporated, started the business, and took hold of our building, and we're in the process of getting our equipment. So it took until, correct me if I'm wrong, Mikey, I think it was until August. It was either July or August that summer that we actually started selling beer in our retail shop. So July.
It was July that we started selling beer, and I believe August 1 was our very first batch on our system.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's system in house at the brewery. So we had a retail shop, but our tap room wasn't open because we're still working on renovations of the tap room, and we're still putting finishes and touches on the system in the back. And then it wasn't until September that the tap room was open, and then we did our first full scale event in October for Halloween, which is kind of what we use as our nondescript anniversary, I suppose. So the long-winded way would be coming up on 2 years. Call it this August, between August and October, I suppose you could say.
Okay, so that means you won the award pretty damn. You guys probably would have been about a year in, maybe even less.
Just after.
Yeah.
Less than a year if you're talking operation. Just after a year since we incorporated. Yeah.
That's crazy. Very
Nice.
cool, man. Yeah, that's really, really cool. When do you sell? What's the? Sorry, Nate. The last question on that was, what's the, like? When do you guys? I imagine you would have anniversary, you know, releases and a party and all that stuff. When do you celebrate that? I guess, being that I know you're in a very interesting position where it's kind of almost you're like opened in a time when shit was vague. So it's like, what do you guys like? If we're having a farm league anniversary party, when do you guys celebrate that?
I think we did it on Halloween both times we've done it on Halloween. Halloween was like our grand opening, and then this past Halloween we did another big party with a band and a whole bunch of stuff, and Mike was cooking burgers on a barbecue out back, and he was getting smoked out. It's a whole story, but I think we've been using Halloween as our pseudo 1 year, probably just because it's easy and it's a fun time, and you can make a beer for it, do a party, which works. But I guess another thing that we did last year was our inaugural festival at the brewery called Mellow Fest. We did that in early June last year, which we're upgrading into a bigger festival this year, but potentially using that as a bit more of the launch off point of the summer, and potentially some more fun anniversary things. So I know they're like 6 months apart, but either or we're leaning into for parties, and not sure which one counts more. But yeah, like you said, it was that time where things were extremely vague, and truly it was, you know, after that first October, November, halfway through December, I think it was, we got shut down December through January,
I remember, yeah.
and then reopened February just last year. So we kind of, you know, just made it to our first full year of actual 12-month operation without interruption. So I think we're in a unique position to pick and choose some dates out of whatever the heck we want it to be, rather than follow the strict anniversary rules. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What a weird time, eh?
Oh man, when you look back,
Right?
it's so strange.
It's so crazy.
It's gonna be weird to look back in a few years and just be like, what the fuck happened? Like, how did we?
Yeah,
survive
really.
that? Yeah. Sorry, go on, Nick.
Yeah. Can you guys talk us through the name Farm League? How you landed on that? What what meaning that has for you?
Yeah. I think we all have our specific thoughts on it. So I'll start and Mike can follow up with a little bit. But for me, Farm League in general means kind of like the up and comers or the underdogs league, the lower level league than the professionals, which is what craft beer always felt like coming up, was like the people doing it at home, the people doing it out of like a small industrial facility. And then now the people that are, like, as it's scaled up, it's become so much more and so much more. And Farm League is kind of like an ode to that, style of business. And truly not just in craft beer, as we've seen over the past couple of years, like the bigger focus on just small business and local business. Like, that's the Farm League of business, that we're, it's no crazy corporation. It's not people with hundreds of employees. It's, the grinders and the grassroots folk. And then that's kind of how we operate and how we see the industry and ourselves. So it's just a name that kind of represents that. But obviously, that's how I kind of feel about it. But there was some early plans of the brewery that Mike can tell you about that kind of led to what we wanted to be a double entendre, but didn't quite work out.
Yeah, so I mean the original idea was our business partner Colin. His family has some farm property just outside of Kitchener, and so the original plan was kind of to build this beautiful sort of almost destination brewery just kind of outside of the city, but due to bureaucratic zoning and council regulations of changing it from agricultural to industrial, it was something that perhaps given time and lots of money for lawyers, maybe we could have pulled it off. But I mean, we were incredibly fortunate again with the timing of sort of making the best of someone's bad situation with the Grand River Brewing shutting down and moving operations to Magnata and Vaughan, that building becoming available, and then ABURB selling off a bunch of their equipment, specifically from their Kitchener location, which was actually where we got all of our tanks and our brew house, our canning line. So, without that timing, we might have still been on the same trajectory of building it out onto a farm. But just the cards kind of fell this way, and there's something very farm feeling and farm league in a way about being in a 130-year-old knife factory, right? It's an old building. It's almost like a barn in itself, but it's in the city.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
I had I don't know why I was thinking about it before. I went there when it was what was it called? Grand River, in like
Grand River, yeah.
2011, when I first started doing the stupid beer selfie thing in like 2011. With my friend, and I was like, I'm just looking at the pictures on Google. I'm like, no, I don't know why I had a feeling before when I was looking at your address. I was like, I wonder if it's the same place. That's cool, man. It's a beautiful building. I just remember we went to the bottle shop, and then sort of that was it. Got some stuff and left. But you guys did a great job with this. This is beautiful.
It's taken a little bit of elbow grease from all of us over the past 2 years. It's been a huge labor of love and a ton of time spent, but we're super proud of it over there, and
very cool, man.
Retain the original vibe of the building and not lose that, while still making it maybe a little bit cleaner and safer to operate in. So it's come a long way. We've done a lot of work, from floors to roofs to painting to windows,
green rooms.
Still, exactly. And still capturing that same old vibe from the original brewery that was there, which is kind of an OG in the region, and not really wanting to tarnish that, but bringing our own flavor to it and bringing our personality to it. So I'm super, super stoked with how things are right now. And we slowly work away on other things, but if you don't look too close to see all the funky cracks and things wrong with the old building from about 2 meters away, it looks really nice. So it's good.
That's all you can ask, because no one's really going to
It
notice
does.
what you guys.
It does look like a gorgeous space, and and yeah, like you can forgive a lot of like cracks and things like that when it's an old building, and it's like that's one of those spaces that like no one's going to come into it not knowing that it's an old building, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
And I imagine it'd probably hold a lot of what's the word? It'd be a special place for people in the region. Like being that brewery, like I always remember the Grand River, having like word art or clip art level like labels and stuff to the point it was hilarious back then. But every beer label sucked back then. And then, but the beers for the time were always kind of solid. But I feel like they were such an OG brewery that to people of Cambridge, like that, it must be really cool for them to see it live on through, some young fellas like taking over the spot and doing something that's still palatable to maybe people who used to go there when it was Grand River, whilst also appealing to kind of this new generation of craft beer drinkers with haze and all the other fun stuff.
Yeah, people were really stoked that it was returning to its old form as a brewery. And to be honest, hats off to the former owner of Grand River who still owned the property even when Magnata moved the business out of there. We got the real estate off him. He really he was holding on to it for a while. He really wanted to sell it to someone that was going to operate something, special in that space. So being another brewery coming in was kind of perfect for that. So they were stoked about it, and it made the process a lot easier. And then people in the community were really, really happy about it, that, that there was going to be a tap room returning to form there, and still beer being made at that location. And it really helped us right off the beginning. I got to be honest, like having, a previous host that's kind of an OG in the region, a lot of people came through to check it out, right? Just to see what was going on, what we've kept the same, how the beer is. So that led us to a nice little runway to begin with people coming in just out of curiosity, and you hope to do well enough to have them come back. But it was a nice start and another turn of good fortune for us to be able to somewhat build on the blocks that were kind of left there already. So we were really stoked about that. And then it's been long enough now where it really feels like our space, and we do our own thing over there. But the history of that building, not just brewery. I mean, we get people from in town bringing us old newspaper clippings from 1917 about the knife manufacturing building and stuff like that. And I'd like to do something with all that at some point, maybe a piece for the tap room or something. But there's a ton of history there. And I mean, Galt, it's a funny place, but man, it's got a lot of history in one of the original cities in Ontario there. So it's really cool to be a part of that and see the, being another new piece to a community that's starting to build up and to become something special, and use the beauty of the landscape we have over there. So no, it was a perfect turn of fortune, and it's a great building, and truly can't imagine being anywhere else. And it's nice that folks were kind of behind us from the beginning and kind of rooting for us to keep that tap room and that space alive.
That's perfect, man. Was it always, I mean, aside from the farm idea, did you guys always want to stay in Cambridge? Obviously, Matt, you said, from Burlington. Mike, were you from the region too?
So I mean, originally I'm from Barrie, but I moved to Guelph for university, and then kind of stuck around in Guelph for years and years. And my partner and I, Lacey, we live out in Puslinch now, which for those of you who don't know is just kind of like halfway between Cambridge and Guelph. It's about 15 minutes either way.
Gotcha.
So I mean, I know all the other guys kind of Matt was from Burlington, Colin was from Guelph. So I think Guelph and area was kind of where we were initially thinking. And I mean, we I think we looked at like a place in the south end of Guelph, which is a little bit more, like new build industrial. I think we looked at a space in Paris. We were thinking about looking at a space in like Mount Albert. And then, we kind of heard through like a friend of our real estate agent that Grand River might be for sale. And that was kind of, it was like, well, it's there. Let's take a look. And I mean, it had been gutted. All the equipment had been taken out of it. Like it was right down to, basically down to the studs in there. So it was kind of a blank slate. And, we knew that the equipment from Aber was also on the market. And, we kind of did some rough measurements and, we're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure we can make it fit. So it was honestly like kind of the perfect marriage of like, let's go for this. We kind of walked into the building and it was like, this is a once in a lifetime. Like we'll never find another space that looks like this. We weren't necessarily married to working and building it up in any particular city. It was just when the space felt right, that's when we knew.
Okay, yeah.
Mikey, those times were tough with the equipment, man. Holy shit.
I was about to say the equipment.
They were some of the most nerve-wracking days of my life, but we made it happen.
Spend all this money, and then if it didn't fit through the doors, then you're like, what do you do? I guess you got to build
knocking down doors,
knock down walls,
and you don't.
No, because that's a whole other problem to deal with. So I guess that when Magnata moved them out, they took the equipment with them then, as opposed to starting fresh, which is, I guess that makes sense because then the building is kind of like stuck to being a brewery. When if you're the real estate owner, then it kind of makes more sense that it's flexible and like it could go to anybody with that, but. Conveniently, I imagine they would have had the drainage and all the things that you would typically have to do in a brewery were kind of set.
Yes,
it was the bones of the brewery, which was great. It was it was kind of perfect because in the other spaces we had looked, those things that are brewery specific were yet to be done, and a whole different slice of a project as well. So we had a lot to do, but it at least had the flow and bones of what was a brewery, which was helpful in planning it out and choosing that spot, being like, at least there's something done, you know what I mean?
Oh, that would have saved a chunk of money too, I guess, because the concrete and the digging and all that type of stuff, I've seen people do that before, and it looks like a kind of almost more annoying than a lot of other parts of the...
It's an incredibly messy job, and it costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time to put in those trench drains. So, fortunately, we didn't have to deal with any of that. And I mean, the building already had high voltage service for the equipment. It was really just a matter of moving the equipment from Kitchener and bringing it over and setting all that up. Which, of course, getting permits for work permits for trucks. And, three of our fermenters were actually outdoors in Kitchener. And we had to get permits to shut down the road for like 3 or 4 hours on a Wednesday in the middle of a COVID lockdown. You can imagine the bureaucratic nightmare of trying to get a piece of paper filed and, no one's answering their emails, and it's just chaos everywhere.
We shouldn't talk like this was a cakewalk for you guys, right?
No.
It had its trials and tribulations.
I went to City Hall in Kitchener and was knocking on all the doors and windows because no one was replying to us. I'm like, there's got to be someone in there, man. There has to be someone in there. Just a security guard. That's all it was in there.
I feel like this is going to be like in like 5 to 10 years, like stories like this almost like put the whole thing in perspective in a different way, to just be like, there's people that are trying to start businesses and go about life as much as possible. And this is the shit you had to deal with. It's kind of wild, man. It's a huge testament, I think, to guys like yourselves and your team and anyone who managed to start a business, particularly a physical space that requires a lot of government intervention and bureaucratic deals, like whatever the zoning and, like you said, all the paperwork and blah blah blah, like
tax,
yeah. Jesus Christ, you guys really cop it with the tax. My God.
That could be a podcast in and of itself, to be honest.
As a business owner who we just moved from Quebec to Ontario, so we're pretty happy already compared to Quebec. It's pretty sweet out here, but I'm sure it has its. I think when it comes to alcohol, it's a whole other thing that you got to deal with. So it's very cool that you guys were able to kind of finesse that and make it happen. It's really, really cool, and you should be proud as hell, man. Like, to get that going and to have like a business, particularly in a legendary space like that. Which I don't know if that's hyperbole calling it that, but that's my understanding of really what that brewery kind of was. Like, there wasn't many breweries when they started. I imagine.
For sure, it was a classic, and it all worked out there with not without our fair share of troubles through that process. Mike saying the transportation of the equipment, the paperwork and whatnot, the build inside and setup was a far greater project than we ever imagined. Like, being three new business owners, you can think these things, but until you're actually in the middle of it, trying to work with deadlines to get your business going, all had quit our jobs. You know what I mean? Mike and I both worked in the beer industry previous to starting the business, and wanted nothing to do with like a conflict of interest, obviously. So as soon as launching it as a real thing, we wanted to make sure that we were full in and doing the right thing. So that timeline getting tighter and tighter, and putting this stuff together being kind of a monolith of a project for people doing it the first time. But maybe a couple months later than we imagined, but in the moment, feeling the pressure of that and how big a deal it was, lends us to now, when there's problems, looking back and being like, you know what, at least we're here. So it can always feel good to use those moments as motivation and help yourselves out through the things that happen day to day. So you can, be thankful for getting to the position you're in. So, that's what we try and do.
Very cool, man. I love it. Is it? Am I preempting? I'm just looking at the time. Usually, every 30 or so. Is it?
No, I think.
Yeah,
I think you're about right.
I think I'm about on point. All right, boys.
And before we go on, like God damn, that Kölsch is good. There's been a couple of episodes that we've done in the last month or so that renewed my appreciation for Kölsch's. This is really nice.
Kölsch is like an underrated crispy boy, I feel like.
Yeah, we love it. It's probably.
Yeah, I think it's a really underrepresented style.
Yeah, definitely underrepresented.
Favorite brewery too.
Oh yeah, I bet, man. So we're gonna switch it up a little bit now. We're doing the Hefe.
Yes, sir.
Yep, beautiful. So this is a style kind of like what we were talking about earlier. This called What Feeling Good Feels Like, which is a fantastic name for a beer. Very attractive label as well. I couldn't even tell you the last time I had Hefeweizen, so I was pretty curious for this one. And I think as we were sort of discussing it earlier, you guys were saying that, it sounded like you kind of feel the same way, as in like it's slowly becoming a more, I don't know, a more widely available style here in Ontario, and I kind of feel the same. Like I've seen it more and more recently, to the point where I'm almost like, oh wow, another one. So yeah, man. I'm very curious about it. Talk us through this bad boy.
Well, so this is our like you said, what Feeling Good feels like. It's sort of our take on a German Hefeweizen style. Matt can definitely speak to sort of his love for this style. This is sort of Matt's bread and butter. What we were really going for was just again sort of that classic, very doughy, bready, almost like banana bread with that beautiful clove profile, German style wheat beer. Sometimes I do refer to it as, sort of the OG hazy boy. It is in its right, a little bit cloudy. And goes down, again, super easy, 5.5%. So it is, a little bit more robust in terms of ABV than some of the other beers in our lineup, but still goes down incredibly smooth at the end of a long brew day.
Oh, I bet. Gentlemen.
I have a bit of cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I have a bit of an obsession with Hefeweizens and German style wheat beers. And,
Okay.
you know, I back when I was at my first alcohol job, we had an importing agency, and we imported Weinstefan from Germany, which is known as the world's oldest commercial brewery and one of the I guess the original German Hefeweizen. And I loved it, and it was probably one of the first times I tried that style of beer and immediately fell in love with it. And I just think it's so unique and so awesome, and so different and like filling but refreshing and like great in the summer, but can also be great in the winter in so many ways. So when we were moving on from Leaf as our kind of, other European, style beer, I suggested doing a Hefeweizen, because, over the years you'd seen kind of the rise and fall in popularity of something like a side launch wheat, which was kind of like Ontario's take on a German Hefeweizen. And you just
Yep.
stopped seeing it around. And I was super bummed about it because I think it's awesome. And, I would buy the only time I really go to the LCBO to get beers for the weekend is to try some new stuff that I see pop up online or grab imports. So I'd always go and grab um, Weiss beers from the LCBO and not really see new ones pop up from the Ontario craft community. So I was like, screw it, man, let's make one and see how it does, and maybe we can kind of research that style of beer a bit, or fill the wheat gap in the community where people might have import wheats on or macro wheats on, and kind of bring the craft into that just because it hasn't been there too much. And a lot of the craft bars like to have their crispy, their hoppy, their hazy, their dark, their sour, and their wheat. And I feel like they were just bouncing around the same 2 to 3 wheats forever. So bringing another one in there, I thought would be really fun. And luckily we were right. We can't keep this one in stock in kegs.
Wow.
The bars buy it up quite often to fill that hole in their lineup. And I'm super
Nice.
stoked about it. So this one has willed its way into the core lineup, being that people have been buying enough of it in kegs that we had to do 2, 3, 4 batches and now become a staple. So yeah, I love the style, and really, really happy that we're able to make one that I think is really, really good, and fills that gap in the bars and stuff like that. And hoping we can get some bigger distribution for this one. It would be really cool for that to be in the LCBO as well, and share with more wheat beer fans across the province, because I know there's probably many places where there isn't something on the shelf to grab from an Ontario craft brewer quite like this. So yeah, that's my rant on this beer. I truly love it.
Love it. Do you want to? That's awesome. Mike, do you want to talk us through maybe the flavor profiles and everything, for particularly because I imagine the four of us got into beer when I think Matt, when you were describing your journey, that was the journey, the color wheel, and then the Belgians, and then the tongue ripping West Coast, and then it was the what's it called, then the haze and all that sort of stuff. But I think the people who get into beer in the last few years missed out on all of that, particularly, and this is like a style that people missed out on. So I feel like it's worth going. I'd love to sort of hear the intention and a bit more about the flavor profile of this, particularly for those folks to be like, who came into beer when it was like haze and smoothies and pastry stouts. Like, hey man, there's some other stuff kicking around. It's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, it's the the sort of the thought process behind it. It's a really beautiful classic style, and I agree with you. Yeah, a lot of people who in the last couple of years have found a love for craft beer. They found it through like you said, the fruited sours, the juicy, dank, hazy, tropical IPAs. There's Hefeweizen has been made for hundreds of years. It was I'm very familiar with the Reinheitsgebot. It was one of the original styles that was exempt from the Bavarian purity law, which, as for those of you who may not know, listening at home, it's sort of a taxation law that was put in place by Germany that basically stipulated that beer could only be made with malted barley, water, and hops. At the time, of course, they didn't know about yeast, but they wanted to save the wheat for for bread and for food sources. But they did make the exemption for a handful of styles, and Hefeweizen was one of those styles. It's a really beautiful beer. It kind of strikes a nice balance as well for someone who like me might like saisons and sort of that dry, spicy, phenolic flavor profile to it. So it kind of hits all those notes on, sort of the subtle banana and the spicy clove, the sort of bready, doughy, malt profile to it. But then the high carbonation just kind of washing that all away and giving it a nice, real quick finish and, making it easy to go back for another sip.
Hell yeah. I'm getting all that stuff, man. It's fascinating. It's been so long since I've had, man, I used to drink it like, what's the one? The blue label German one. I'm having a blank. Starts with H.
Blue label.
Pardon?
Blue label? Blue label. I'm trying to think.
I used to drink it. There was a place called I'm from Melbourne in Australia. And there was a place called the Belgian Beer Garden. This is long before I knew shit about beer. And it was sick because they had I used to always get it. And it was a blue bottle, blue label. Started with H. I don't know why I'm having Hogarden. Yeah, I used to love that shit. Back in the day, as a non-craft beer drinker, I just like trying fun beers. Like before I knew what craft beer was, I always liked the European stuff. So it's kind of taking me back to those days. I always felt that in my head, I don't know what happened, but I always think of it I don't like the phenols a lot. I'm not the biggest fan of some of the farmhouse stuff because I feel like the phenols overtake it a little bit and kind of overpower it. But I feel like you guys have got a nice, real balance here. Nothing's attacking anything. The spice is sitting just right. The phenols are sitting just right. Everything is just in it's very cohesive, and this is a pleasure to drink, which is not something I thought I'd really be saying about a Hefeweizen.
I love phenolic. I love phenolic beers myself, which might be not a hot take, but a little out of the ordinary. But again, like you said, we come from a different time in craft beer where there was a lot more variety to style. And I get those phenols is really what, I want this beer. But again, when you make something, it's got to be not just, doesn't have to be true style. If you want to make something true to style, that's important, but it's got to be, for the true, vibe of farm league, something that's still approachable to someone walking through the door and not going to shut them off a style because it's way too far down the rabbit hole. So I agree with you. I think Mike did a wonderful job balancing it, still giving you the notes that people that enjoy the style really crave and really want to have, and not hiding from that, but not going over the top where, you're putting yourself in a position where someone's going to come in and get their flight, have one little sip of it and be completely turned off because it's something completely out of the ordinary for them. So striking that balance is super important. And love hearing that, man. That's right down the pipeline of what we're trying to do. So that's sweet.
Love it. Nate.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and it's funny. This conversation has definitely been an experiment in kind of how your your brain and your palate can be primed by by someone else's suggestion. Because when you guys said banana bread, how this comes up after the sip there, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally fucking taste that. and that's the second time that's happened tonight. Okay, I'm gonna segue into something else right now, because I want to talk about about collabs, and we've already talked a little bit about how we like the your can labels and whatnot, and I want to talk about a particularly sexy label like in your lineup. Tell us about Greta Van Fleet and how that collab came about, because that's a very that's a very sexy label you guys have there, and I'd like to know the story behind that.
Yeah, it's truly wild, man. There's a couple points to this that I'll touch on, but Mike and I are both like as we know by now from the beer industry over a number of years before starting the business. Um, our missing partner in this call, Colin, had worked at some breweries as well, but was mainly from the music industry.
Mm.
So his bread and butter was, tour managing, booking, and working with musicians. So as you start your brewery and you start doing the things that you do, and you find your happy place. We've always been trying to push the envelope in different ways, and he really wanted to use his contacts and history in the music industry to try and make something unique happen. And I mean, lots of people have done collaborations with bands, whether it be label collaborations or liquid collaborations or whatever it is. But we got in contact with the Greta Van Fleet management, the band themselves, and I mean, I guess this is something that happens a lot more in the U.S. with music tours for bands and things like that, because they had done this previously in California and a number of different places that they had been touring through. But in Canada, it was a first of its kind thing where we created a beer specifically for them and their album release and their Canadian tour. So the input on that was to make a golden ale to fit the Dreams in Gold album release. So we made that beer, under direction of tasting notes from us and them, and finding something that was going to work with the album, using that album cover as the can art, and then truly doing our best to get it where it needed to go for their tour, which wasn't easy on short notice, trying to figure out provincial laws and how to get things where and do all that. But what we can say is we shipped out a lot of beer, and it made it to its home sometimes. And one thing that we always keep as a feather in our cap is that when they played, sold out Scotiabank Arena, I guess you'd call it now, our beer was there. And it might be one of the very few true craft beers that's been sold at that arena in the past, I don't know, ever, probably. For someone completely independent to sell beer at that venue. So that was pretty sweet. And then that led us into a project of mainly just home delivery and retail and things around Ontario. But then we had about 2,000 empty pre-labeled cans of this Greta Van Fleet beer. So before Christmas this past year, we got in contact with them and wanted to do a charity type thing. So we ended up seeing through social media and some different avenues that people were making beer candles with these cans. So melting wax, putting a wick in there, filling it up, letting it dry, and it's a candle in a can. So we pitched that idea to them to make those, put them online, and then donate the proceeds to charity. And they were all about it right before the Christmas season. So we had about 2,000 empty cans. We turned on the pre-sale feature on our website and sold 2,000 in about 72 hours, maybe 48 hours.
Holy shit.
And, yeah. And then we were like, okay, now we got to make some candles. So, so I mean, the things you do to survive in this day and age, but it was super obscure. But yeah, so we figured out how to get the wax, drove down to Pennsylvania, picked it up, bought all the wicks and stuff like that. Mike and I test drove the old pilot batch system with galvanized buckets and wax to melt it, and ended up creating those candles and sending them worldwide. Being as it's not a controlled product, you can ship those to whether it be Australia, Ireland, India, wherever. So there was orders from all over the place. all of that
Amazing.
came with its set of challenges, of course, but it was a cool project, and we pulled that off, and it was really fun. So the beer with Greta Van Fleet was kind of a long-standing collaboration project for music and beer and touring, and then tied in a kind of cool thing at the end to it, which is leading us into some more projects that I'm super, super excited about. Can't quite divulge exactly what's going on, but we have a really, really awesome beer coming out with some really cool people that's going to be available a little bit more for the masses in the near future. So keep an eye on that. There'll be some announcements, hopefully sooner rather than later, but it's going to be something that's another big part of what we do. So we're really stoked about that.
That's dope, man. Excuse my ignorance. I'm a hip hop guy, so I have never heard of these guys. They got like 4 million Spotify monthly listeners and songs with like 180 million plays. So they're serious, huh?
Yeah, they got to be one of the bigger rock bands in North America. I would have to think at this point. Any ones that are current, anyway. So it was unbelievable and mind blowing, to be honest. But you get to work and make something people are going to like, and it was a truly different set of circumstances. But that's what it's all about, man. It was super fun.
Good for you guys, man. Like, that's awesome. And when you said, I was like, okay, they played at the brewery. And then you're like, oh, Scotiabank. I'm like, oh, hang on a second. So I'm like, I got to check these guys out. Fuck, man, that's awesome. I feel like I've seen you guys, speaking of collabs, this is not what I thought you were going to go with the collabs line there, Nate. I feel like I've had beers from you guys that were collabs. You guys have done a lot of collabs in the beer industry. Is that fair to say? Or some, maybe not a lot, might not be.
Yeah, probably, especially when we were starting out. But yeah, it's definitely a good handful or two of them.
Okay. I'm trying to think of what I specifically have had or at least seen recently from you guys. Do you want to maybe just like touch on some of the ones that you really enjoyed that you've done as far as collabs? And I guess I'm bringing it up as well, being that I know you both are already in beer, so you had those contacts, which is fantastic. But it's also kind of extra cool because you're a newer brewery, a couple years old. Being able to do collabs, I imagine, with some brewers that you respect and sort of that are lending you, like, even if you already had a relationship, that like, hey, let's do something. When you know what it's like. You guys now have been around. If there's a new brewery that reaches out to you guys, then now you would be co-signing them to do those collabs. So it's pretty damn cool. So is there anything you've done that was super fun or kind of like stood out?
I mean, for the most part, like, I mean, it's like asking me to pick a favorite child, right? Which collabs did I enjoy the most, right? I mean, that's one of the things that I love about the industry, for all of the awful problems that the beer industry has. That is a separate podcast in and of itself. There really is this sense of sort of camaraderie between breweries that I find in this industry, and you don't really find that in too many other industries where we are competitors, but it's sort of a rising tide floats all ships. What is good for us is good for other breweries, different markets. And, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just beer, right? So, being able to, just hang out with some friends and come up with something unique and fun that, maybe you want to push the boundaries, or maybe you have a specific style in mind that you really like and don't get to make too often. And, it's always a lot of fun, sort of getting to do those little fun side projects.
This is really cool.
Pardon me. Specifically speaking, I mean, I guess, sort of a couple of the favorites that come to mind. We did a smoked goza with Powerhouse Brewing down in London last summer. So it was like sort of like a luau themed beer.
That's fun.
No, are we losing Mike?
Oh, the internet. The internet's kicking Mike.
Pat and I, the brewer down there, we used to work at Equals together, hang out with him old a little bit. It was, trying to convince Matt and Colin that we were going to make a smoked beer. I think their eyes bulged out of their head when I told them that, but, it was really, really really well received, surprisingly, by the community. And like to this day, we still get people coming in and asking, they're like, do you still have that smoky pineapple beer? And, maybe one day it'll come back, but, that's kind of the beauty of these things.
That's sick.
Yeah, when it comes to collabs, I got this. Are you still there, Mike? Sorry, I didn't know if you're still talking or not. Sorry, buddy.
Go on.
I was just gonna say, when it comes to collabs, I gotta specifically shout out a couple folks that really helped us when we were first starting out and trying to dial in our equipment and get our first batches going. Where Wavemaker, which is a brewery right down the road from us, we made our very, very first commercially sold beer was actually a collaboration with them, which was a grisette. And we were still doing construction, but like it was taking so long. We wanted to, people were talking about us and seeing the building, and there was nothing we could capture there. So we made a beer with them, and they were kind enough to let us brew a beer before having anything on paper yet, which was really, really cool of them, and an awesome time and a great beer. And then Counterpoint in Kitchener, which is our good friend Graham, and small little brewery, tons of heart, and made an awesome double IPA for our first kind of haze bomb collab with them that really helped us get out to the local community in a meaningful way as well. So both of those early collabs were super, super important, and just goes to show that whether competitors or whatever you want to call it, folks are out there to help when you're starting up a brewery. And definitely there is some, not a passing of the torch, but some sort of someone starting up, and if you can help legitimize their vision by putting out a beer to a wider audience, it's a pretty cool thing to do for people. And then we did a Dunkelweiss, which is a dark style of a German Hefeweizen with Nickelbrook over the wintertime. And being from Burlington, they were my home brewery growing up, so it was a pretty cool full circle moment to go make a beer with them after starting our own brewery, and them being like the beer that was at every Sound of Music Festival in Burlington, or just the local craft beer you would see at the bars and things like that. And them having been around for so long, it was just like kind of surreal to be like right in there making a beer with our name on it as well. So those kind of moments are pretty cool for sure.
I love that. That's what I was thinking of. They sent it to me recently. I haven't tried it yet. It's been crazy, but okay, that's awesome, man. I feel that though. That's super cool, particularly like working with breweries that were impactful back in the day, and for you guys. So that's it sounds like you guys have done a lot of very cool things in a very short time. I mean, working with a band that big, I know the breweries do stuff with bands a lot, which is I love. And being a band it's not what I expected when I was like, oh yeah, cool, some like localish band or some shit. Like, no, that's some like serious stadium shit. And then doing things as cool that more on a like Nickelbrook are definitely one of the bigger regional breweries in Ontario, and a very big deal. And they were one of my we actually did a collab with that one right there. It was a collab we did with them, and that was huge for me. It was one of the first breweries I ever went to. So I absolutely align with that. And I think that's pretty cool, man. I feel like that's really like a testament to either the product, probably both actually, the product that you guys are making, and also you guys as human beings to be able to connect with these people for them to want to do this. It's very cool, guys. Like, you should be like proud, man. Like, a couple years in and doing that shit, that's amazing. Love it.
100%. I'm not surprised to to hear you say that about those breweries, and Counterpoint in particular. Like, Graham's a friend. We had him on back in November, and he's one of the guys that put us onto you as as kind of one of the good up and comers in the region. So, and not surprised to hear that at all. And Matt will probably be chatting more after the fact because I also grew up in Burlington, and Nickelbrook was my local back in the day as well.
No shit, eh? Holy crap! Yeah, we'll definitely have to have a chat and see where we all had our roots and whatever, eh?
That'd be hilarious.
And I went to university in Waterloo as well, so I know the area there too.
Look at us, eh? Holy moly!
Look at that, local.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm looking at the time again. I feel like I'm always the beer Nazi. What do you reckon? Shall we get into the final one?
Let's do it.
I'm good. To go whenever.
So this is great. You guys have really like sold me on like getting back into Hefeweizens again, which is very, very cool. So this particular style is something else that I was sort of ironically attracted to this style again. We used to almost make fun of it. There was have you guys heard of a Roos in Quebec? Are you familiar with that?
Yep.
So
Yep.
Nate and I have a Twitter account called Team Lactose. It was just making fun of, well, we actually like lactose in beer. You know, when that was popular in 2017, people got like really mad. Like the purists got furious about it. So we thought it was funny, and we would make fun of people getting mad about it because it was like, it's just beer, man, like just have fun with it. And then it became a bit of a joke where it was like team whatever, didn't matter what it was, you're like team. And then I started joke about Team Roos because it's such like an old school style. And then I started drinking more of them, and I'm like, oh, actually I really like this style. So this is your Galt Red. One, it's dope that you did a red ale in 2023, but two, it's a I imagine, this is my my guess, is a nod to the original Galt beers from Grand River, because I know that they used to call their stuff, they named that after the region. Is that accurate, or has that got nothing to do with it?
I mean, somewhat. I love that you explain it that way, because that's like everything that like came up to why we made this beer. It was like, a funny style for today's day and age, but you wouldn't imagine the amount of people that would come in our brewery doors and ask for a red. And we're like, holy shit, like, is this like warranting a full batch of beer?
Yes,
like,
it is.
So many dudes are coming through asking for this stuff. And like, I hadn't reconnected with the style in a super long time. So we actually started this beer because we wanted to make a community brew with it. So we opened up our doors. This was actually started as our wet hop brew from the past hop harvest. So we got, which is even more obscure, but we got a ton of hops from Good Lot Farms up in Caledon, which are great friends of ours and recent and multiple time collaborators. But we brought all the hop farms into the tap room, moved out all the tables, and put out a post saying like, "Hey man, if you're in Galt, come by, pick some hops from us. You can be part of like the Galt Red. We're doing a red ale because all these Galt people come through and want it, and we're doing a hop pick in the tap room. So it's going to be called Galt Red. It's obscure, but it's going to be super fun." So it was about representing the community of people around us and having them come through and make the beer with us, which was super, super fun. I guess in a way it does have a bit of a homage to Grand River style beers, because that's kind of what they specialized in, but that was never really too deep into the thought of what it was. It's actually a little bit more reminiscent of the Galt knife manufacturing facility, as the original logo of the building was this like arrow. So it's kind of like a play on that original Galt knife logo. Okay. But yeah, if you give us the down low on this beer, it's so fun to talk about a red ale on a beer podcast.
In 2023.
No, it's true. And,
right?
Yeah, you're not wrong that that wet hop ales are even more obscure, but I fucking love wet hop ales, and I'm one of the ones moaning every fall that there seems to be fewer and fewer each year.
I'll be back in a second. I just spilled the beer all over myself. You guys keep going.
Yeah, no worries.
Had an accident. Yeah, and as he was saying, like I'm now that I think of it, I think there was a Grand River beer called Old Galt, but I forget which I forget which beer of that there was.
Very possibly.
Not
I
important.
couldn't.
Yeah, so you guys want to continue like talking us through this one, what what went into this one and whatnot?
Totally. So, I mean, as Matt had said, initially this beer, the very first time that we brewed it, it was in collaboration with Good Lot Brewing Company. Shout out to Phil and Gail Winters and Mike Brooks, most fun brewer in Ontario. But we basically, they kind of reached out to us. We had done a collab with them the year before. We did a sort of Czech style Pilsner that we had wet hopped with some of their beers. So when they reached out and sort of gave us the offerings.
Awesome.
Oh, it was beautiful. Yeah, it was highway hopnosis. That beer was a lot of fun.
I love that.
But anyway, so they sort of reached out and gave us the lowdown on what varietals were available for harvest this year, and so we had gone with Willamette and Santiam, and sort of going off of that, I kind of thought, what's a style that sort of fits into our lineup that, kind of fills a gap, something that we don't do too often, that, we can kind of showcase these hops. And I kind of landed on a red ale, like a sort of nice, earthy hop aroma, sort of floral, and then a, really nice sort of caramel, very kind of, a little bit sweet, not too cloying, sort of hefty malt backbone behind it. Something that would kind of, really springboard into fall and the, sort of darker beer season, right? So we brewed that batch. It turned out to be immensely popular and was one of our fastest selling, sort of one-off brands that we did. So that was gone pretty quickly. Roll over into the new year, and people keep coming back and asking for it. And so we brewed a small batch, sort of did like a half size batch on our system. That one sold out a lot quicker than we would have anticipated, actually, to the point where we had to brew another batch. I'm scheduling a third one in the immediate future because we can't keep up with it. There was a tremendous response from bars asking for it, which if you had told me 3 years ago when we kind of sat down to start planning this out that one of our fastest selling beers would be a red ale, I would not have believed you. I would have said it would be the fruited sour or the lactose IPA or something like that. But it's it's interesting how life comes at you, and something that you don't expect to be
in
a smash hit.
In 2023, a red ale being a top seller at a bar is go fucking figure.
It's crazy, man.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's a testament to like some older styles just coming back, and I think people, you bring them out, and new craft beer drinkers seeing them for the first time, old craft beer drinkers seeing them for a time they haven't in quite a while, and just like that, bringing its own unique buzz for something that wouldn't otherwise typically have that. So it's been really fun seeing the resurgence of that stuff and being a little bit of a part of that. And it really fits with kind of who we are and what we do and what we like to drink. So it's nice to see, the sales pushing that forward to do more. So we'll keep it rolling. People keep buying it. So more old, unique styles to come. We'll see.
Yeah, man, I love that, and I love that. And I love that you're finding an audience for it. That's really, really cool. So I know that there was something that you guys wanted to talk about tonight, and that was an upcoming festival. So now that we've had a few sips of the red ale, do you want to tell us about this festival you've got?
Absolutely, yeah. We are. We're super excited. I'm just gonna bring up the poster on my phone here, so hopefully everyone can see it on the computer. If not, then it's all good. But yeah, we're doing a festival. It's called Meadows Festival. Who knows? Will this work? Will it not? It's not going to work. No worries. I can't figure
it out. Look it up on your computer and share your screen.
No, it's all good. Anyone can check us out on Instagram or go to meadowsfest.ca. But yeah, we have kickstarted a whole new. There we go, Meadows Music Festival. Check that out. Yeah, it's a large scale music festival in Fergus, Ontario. One of our co-founders, Colin, being from Rockwood, and many of his friends and family having moved up to Fergus over the years, has become a really solid hub for us. That means a lot. And basically, we're bringing a full beer, music, food festival to the Sportsplex there. You know, we've worked really, really hard to curate what I think is an insane lineup of musicians, and focusing on country for the Friday night on June 2nd, and focusing on some good old fashioned rock and roll on the 3rd with some former musicians that did the brewery, all the way up to one of my favorite bands in the country, the Sheepdogs. So yeah, June 2nd, June 3rd, we did our absolute best to keep tickets to an affordable rate, especially in today's day and age with music festivals. Going to be great food. Farm League, where we're running the beer program there, and it's going to be an unbelievable kickoff to summer. It's a first year festival, and kind of first of its kind up in Fergus. So we're really, really excited about it. We put a lot of work into it, and I think it's going to be an unbelievable time. So check it out, man. Check out our Instagram, or check out Meadows Fergus on Instagram, or meadowsfest.ca to see tickets, timelines, band lineups, vendors, and everything like that. But we've put our heart and soul into this, and I think it's going to be an unbelievable kickoff to summer, and just another fun project to use beer to connect with more people.
Yeah, man, that is dope. Like you say, you've got the Sheepdogs on June 3rd there, and you've got Sloan too. Like this is a really, really good lineup. That's really cool, man. It sounds like you say you've put you've put a lot into this. This is certainly no small feat. So yeah, would definitely encourage anyone in the area. That's Friday, June 2nd, Saturday, June 3rd in Fergus. Definitely hit up the Farm League Brewing Instagram for the bill for that, and then go meadowsfest.ca for ticketing and and more info there, because that sounds like it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, man, we couldn't be more excited. It's the whole place is gonna be licensed. Also, tickets free for kids under 12 with a accompanying ticket holder. So any families are more than welcome. It's gonna be great times, great tunes, and let's hope for a great kickoff to summer with that. And just leading into more projects for us. We're trying to do a lot, so when things are successful, it goes a long way for us to do more. So we're going to keep pushing the envelope with different things we can do from being a craft brewery. I mean, it's something special, and anyone in the area, check it out. DM us any questions. We're here for it. Super stoked.
That's awesome, man. It seems like music is I was just reviewing the beer real quick. This is great, by the way. The Team Red Ale's right here. God damn it.
That's good.
It seems like I actually spilled this. I had to change my pants. Like, that much beer spilled on me. I'm an idiot. Good times. Never had that in the middle of a podcast. Oh, have I? Maybe one time. Been a while. It's been a while since I had to change my pants. So I got excited. The Red Ale.
I think you got Manscaped on board, brother.
Manscaped.com. Use the code BAOS, get 20% off your order plus free shipping. You're fucking good to go. You don't even have to change your pants. You could leave your pants off because you're going to be scaped. Right now, I just wanted to do it out of respect for Matt and Mike right here. You know what I'm saying? Because, we just met, but I know we're getting along well, but, it's a little soon for that, but we'll get there. So, yes, Team Red Ale all fucking day. So it seems like music is very important to you guys in the brewery. It seems like that seems a pretty common theme here. Like, where did that come from? Was that like a discussion from the beginning? that you guys were like, hey, we really want to make sure that we've got a space where we have live music, or we're working with musicians, or doing these events? Like, what's the sort of association with music for you guys?
So I mean, that really starts off with Colin. As Matt had said, he'd worked for Live Nation. He'd worked as touring managers for artists. Like he's been in the music industry for years and years, just as Matt and I were, in the beer industry prior to starting this. So I mean, a lot of the sort of his passion behind this is marrying a beautiful space to come and drink great beer and enjoy some great live music. I mean, that all kind of kicked off with Mellow Fest last year in June of 2022. That was sort of our like kick off to doing concerts in the brewery. And I mean, we take big swings in there. Following Mellow Fest, we had our three headliners were Boy Golden, Jeremy Albino, and Tara Lightfoot. Incidentally, Boy Golden and Tara Lightfoot also be at Meadows Festival. I highly recommend you go and check those two out. But sort of following through that, we managed to have Bros come in. I'm not sure if you're familiar. They're sort of the side project of Seamus and Ewan from the Sheepdogs. So we brought in like a 9-piece band, had them set up, and we've just kind of ran with that. We had Tokyo Police Club come through, the Sadies. We've got a handful of shows all throughout the month of March coming up. Crownlands is on Monday. That's a sold out show. It's really too many to mention. We have the Dirty Nil coming through for 2 nights in May. So it's, it was something that we always kind of wanted to do, and, be able to bring music into Galt, and a place to go out on a night and enjoy, some good beer and some live music. But it's kind of brought this community together in a bit of a weird way that we weren't exactly expecting. Like we wanted to do this, and we thought it would, really take off and be cool, but the reception has been, even bigger than we could have ever imagined. So it's kind of morphed the way that we've shaped our tap room around it. We've just installed our own like lighting and PA system. Myself and Derek, our other brewer, we spent a couple of weeks building a stage. So it's all these like modular panels that will move in and out of the tap room. And I mean, at least a third of my job is just moving furniture around at the time, just to try and accommodate space in the tap room. There's a wedding tonight, so it's a bunch of round tables. And then, tomorrow it's trivia night, so we got to bring in the rectangles. And then after that, we got a show. So take all the furniture out, bring in the stage. But, it's really been incredible to see, the space that we've been able to create with that, and, sort of bringing live music together, especially coming out of the pandemic where, people have had 2 years of not being able to see concerts and, buying tickets for a show only to find out that the venue got closed and, the concerts postponed 6 months because of some government regulation. But it's really incredible to see what we've done with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think a little bit of it came, from Mellow Fest last year, and to see the reception of the live music, but a little bit from necessity as well, going through the rougher patches and having to have, programming to get butts and seats. Like our breweries, it's a beautiful building, and we believe we have some great beer in there, but it's no restaurant. It's no, lunchtime hub with fried chicken sandwiches and stuff like that. We have some great food options from local vendors, but we found we had to do a little bit more to fill the room the way we wanted it to. And shout out and hats off to our events coordinator, Jocelyn, that is the driving force behind everything we do in the tap room. So whether it's, trivia nights or, open mic nights or these larger scale concerts that we do in the tap room, he's done an unbelievable job kind of bringing something new and fun to Galt. And like Mike said, it started working. So we just took off with it, and we're all big music fans. And, coming from the wild mind of Colin McKinnon, we started booking bands that you wouldn't normally see in the venue of this size in this region. And it's been a super, super fun thing. And that's what led us to scaling this up and doing something special offsite in a park in Fergus, and trying to do it big and do it different. So yeah, it's been another interesting road over our short tenure of being a brewery. So, another thing we're working really hard on, and really happy with how the community has responded to the shows in the brewery, and hoping to carry that on to the bigger things in terms of a full scale festival. So yeah, that's been the latest and greatest over at Farmling for sure.
That's great, man. It's like you've taken the like a genuine passion and then mixed that with the necessity, and then been able to turn it into something like unique to see. Like whilst I'm not super familiar with the genre, I'm a lot of the names that you guys were mentioning I'd seen around before, so I know that's not no small feat to have acts of that caliber perform at a brewery, which is great because it's like you sort of giving I don't know, like it's making it like a thing. Like I think it's great that it's a thing that artists perform at breweries, because it's just one, it's an extra revenue generating thing for the brewery, which is something that I really care about. But it's just a good night out. It's just fun. Like if you rocked up at a brewery and there's some cool band or whatever playing there, like, all right, sick, let's go. Like it's just, I don't know, it's cool. And it's starting to, like, if you're getting not even just local acts, but you're getting like reputable, I don't know if it's fair to say, it sounds like international or national acts at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, once again, it's not small. Like, it's cool that they would even want to do that if they're playing much larger venues. For them to want to come out there to do it, that's even cooler. So I feel like you're doing the industry a favor by doing that and putting it in, because I've been making music for 20 years. So if I see my peers performing at this venue, I'm like, oh, they're performing at Cambridge at Farm League, eh? Like, all right, that's on my list now. So then you'll get to the point where you'll start having these acts hit you up, if they're not already, which I imagine they probably are. But they'll associate, particularly now you build the stage, like you were saying, Mike, you've got all these, it's all in-house, so you don't have to, like, all right, now we're going to rent a PA and we're going to do like, it's, if you've got all that in-house and you're good to go, you're a fully fledged venue. And that's very beneficial as an artist trying to book a venue as well. Like, if it doesn't have all that stuff, is a pain in the ass, because then you got to go figure that out if you don't have your own stuff. And most artists don't, I would imagine. At least in the rap world, nobody has their own stuff. You just go to a venue and they have the mics, they have the mixer, they have all the everything. So I think it's like an important thing, and it's almost like an emerging sector of craft beer, sort of the way you guys are positioning it now and the way you've scaled it up, like you were just saying, Matt, like into the festival. I don't know, this is cool. It's kind of got me thinking a bit more. I feel like you might have unlocked a pretty serious, not that everyone will have the gut, like organizing a festival. I've been organizing events for a long time, and it's a whole thing. So organizing a festival, I couldn't even imagine the level of whole thing that is. So absolutely props to you both and your whole team for that. But I don't know if it could even just be this whole thing that like I said, new revenue, I don't know, just like a whole section of craft beer that's like, hey, associate craft beer with music. It's, so that
We've
they
been
go
seeing
out.
it more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been seeing it more and more, to be honest. It's like,
Good.
yeah, and it's the scheduling. Like if you're looking for, whoever, it's catching them on their way through to Toronto, or it's catching someone after a show on their way to somewhere else, and it's just like, well, why not make a stop off and have an awesome, intimate show somewhere unique. So it's really hit that mark. And, kudos to, Colin and Joseph for really pushing the envelope on that stuff and doing, things that we didn't really think were possible in the space. But, no, you're right. You start seeing that more and more, and it legitimizes the, ability to do that stuff at other small venues or other breweries, and it lets musicians know that people are going to show out for it, and helps us in the tap room, and wherever you're living. If I was down in Burlington or out in Winnipeg, where I lived for some time or whatever, and my local brewery had a fan favorite band or one of your favorite bands come through, I mean, that's a dream. You know what I mean? So it's sick to see when people come through that are fans of, the music and our beer. Like, what better night can you have?
I think you're also making a correlation between craft beer and music, which I think is important. If you look at the bigger venue, like you mentioned earlier, that the the Greta Van Fleet beer that you guys did was probably the first or one of the first true craft beers that Scotiabank had ever had on, there. Whenever you go there, obviously it's same as Bell Center in Montreal, where it's just, Molson on the Bat products. That is important for you guys to have been there, and then now to associate. I just think do you see what I'm getting? Like that association that a music consumer is going to a gig who aren't us. The four of us, we're going to be looking for that on the menu. So people who aren't us, you rock up to a venue and you're like, all right, what's going on? Like, oh, what's this? Or whatever. You rock up at a brewery and you're like, all right, well, they got beer. We're good. And then they start trying it all. And they're like, oh, wow, this is interesting. Oh, a red ale? This is fascinating. And they start, trying all this different stuff. And all of a sudden, these people who might just be Molson Canadian drinkers are now trying all these different, fun styles because they're associating it with a great time watching some of their favorite bands. And then that can carry on. And then you're creating new consumers because you're probably attracting consumers who wouldn't normally go to the brewery because they just want to see the band. So you're going to get patrons like punters, whatever, rocking up, who are you're essentially opening the floodgates for a whole new group of craft beer consumers, which therefore benefits the industry at large, which is phenomenal.
Breaking down the barriers of what once was like a gate-kept macro beer situation is like somewhat what we're all about, from like the way we brew lighter beers, a lot of times more sessionable style beers or approachable beers, through to connecting with music and trying to get into places that you wouldn't normally see craft beer is kind of all a part of what we're trying to do. And the music has been a huge part of that, because what once was, if you're going to a concert, you're getting X, Y, or Z beers, and that's what's always going to be on the menu no matter what, is hopefully not going to be the same forever. And doing something from even our scale can have an impact there. And that's an awesome analytical way to look at it that I probably haven't even fully fleshed out. But the more we can get people, whether it's our beer or anyone's local craft brewery that's made by people with real ingredients and putting their heart and soul into it, and can break down the barriers to have more people even give it a fair try is super important.
Absolutely. It really is. And it's more just like, I hadn't thought of it before until you guys were sort of like talking about it, and then so consistently from the working with bands with the beer, then to a few of these guys coming through the brewery, to now that these two second year doing the festival. I'm like, oh wow, like I noticed brewery, like you guys mentioned, like there are a number of breweries I can think of that do collabs with bands and that have bands play at the breweries. Totally, it's amazing. But I feel like it's this, I never thought of it as a, I don't know, like an opening to welcome new people, because that's one of the biggest problems in beer is we want new people and people who weren't previously exposed to craft beer. That's, I think, the biggest challenge that we have. So music is a gateway to that. So it's cool as shit, man. I love it. I just think it's really great. And it seems, and once again, it's very like on brand and authentic to you guys. Like you're not forcing it. And I think that's like, I don't think anyone, if you tried to force it, like if someone was doing it, it's not really their thing. It's too much work. It's way too much work to do if you don't care.
Yeah, for sure.
Particularly the festival. I've done events for many, many years, and it's never been my thing. I've never particularly enjoyed it, and I've always seen people, organizing big events like a festival, and just knowing the volume of things that go into it. Particularly a festival, if you're going to, from what I came in at the conversation, like it sounded like it was just like a straight farm, and you've got to bring everything in from stages, lighting, electricity, porta potties, food, alcohol, permits, blah, blah, blah. Like the whole shit, that's massive. It's so big. So, I mean, like, you've just gone and taken it to the next level. It's very, very cool, man. I love it. I love to see it. And I hope it, I hope it slays for you, but I hope it. Obviously, it sounds like it's going to go well because it all have been going really well for you guys. But I feel like you're just doing the industry a service, from coming from such a new brewery. It's very impressive, very cool. I love it.
Appreciate that, my friend. Yeah, we're rocking and rolling. Pushing the envelope. It all starts with the beer with Mikey down there and
Uncle
the
Mike.
team. Everyone working super 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 hard all the time. So can't appreciate them more. That's for sure.
I love it. I love it. Was there anything else we want to touch on before we wrap this bad boy up this evening, fellas? Or we feel like we let the people know what's up. They're all Team Red Hours right now.
I think we ran the gamut pretty good, and if anyone wants to pick up a tasty lager Kolsch Hefeweizen Red Ale, you know where to go. Definitely check out Meadows Fest. It's our big festival that we're super super excited for. I think we've given the fair shake of the story from us. Hey, Mike.
I think so. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers all the bases. It's a little bit for everyone. It takes the village. We are incredibly fortunate and thankful to be where we are, and the opportunity that we have, and keep on rolling.
I love it, boys. I appreciate you both very much. Let's get the thumbnail, and then we'll wrap it up, and then we can finish up off air, and we can talk about Burlington. So I'm going to take a screenshot. Do you want to hold up some of these gorgeous, gorgeous cans? I'm definitely holding the red one. God damn it!
Yeah.
You know the vibes. Give me that whole lager right there. Yeah. Look at that. Ooh. Look at that. Just sexual. Oh, look naked. Double fisting right there. Right. You ready?
Yeah.
Sexual. Gentlemen, where can everyone, once again... Oh, fuck. Nate, I had you muted, sorry, before, because when you went out...
Yeah, you did have me muted.
Yes, I don't know. You might have been talking and we're muted, so I apologize. Where can everyone find Farm League Brewing in real life, online, and once again, remind them about the festival tickets?
So online is Instagram, Facebook, Farm League Brewing, all one word. www.farmleaguebrewing.com is our website. We're at 295 Ainsley Street South in Cambridge, Ontario. And then if you want to check out the festival, it's meadowsfest.ca. On Instagram, it's Meadows Fergus. And you can also just jump on our Instagram is the best place to go to get all of our links, website, Meadows, everything else is through that page as well.
Amazing. And it's June 2nd.
June 2nd, June 3rd.
June 2nd, June 3rd. 2 nights of glory. God damn it. Boys, thank you both very much for your time. I really appreciate it. This has been really fun to get into the beers and to hear the story. It's fascinating. I think you gave us like a nice run of what you guys are up to, what you guys are doing, what people can expect. And I know obviously there's a lot more than just these 4 beers that you have on offer, but this is like gives everyone a bit of a snapshot. Nathaniel, where can everyone find you online, sir?
So all the socials, it's at NathanDoesBeer, and otherwise you can find me right here co-hosting BAOS podcast or on the BAOS podcast blog. All the blogs are at NathanDoesBeer.com.
You're damn right. Everyone, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit the notification bell, goddammit.
Ding, motherfucker.
I guess we're going to delay. So you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast. Check out the long-form audio so you can hear attractive gentlemen like Nathan, Mike, and Maddie talk about craft beer. We'll see you gorgeous humans in the next one. Cheers.